Hello, everyone. We are going live. Hi, everyone. I'm Glory St. Germain. I am the Global Music Composers Summit host, and I'm really excited for all of you that are watching today because you get to meet the composers. This is a rare opportunity. I was just saying, so often we get to meet teachers, fellow educators, people that have different ideas about how we can implement new things into our teaching studios. But today you get to meet the composers that create all the magical music that you play with your students, and also some insights into what you can do if you want to start composing or compose with your students. So we're going to have a little bit of a meet and greet today. So we're going to start off by having our composers introduce themselves, what country they're from, and what they compose. So I will start off with the lovely Caroline. Hi, Caroline.
Hi, good morning. I'm Carolyn Quinn. I'm from Seattle, Washington. Absolutely thrilled to be here. And I compose for myself, and I also compose for my students. Some of my works have been published, but I want to say that it's just the best thing in the world. It's the best part of me, and it's the best part of teaching when I see their little hands get on the keys and make something beautiful and see the pride in their faces. It's priceless.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for being here, Caroline. And I always love your smiley face whenever I see you. It's like this big smile. I love that. So thank you. Francis.
Hello, I'm Frances Blotus, and I live in Muskoka, 2 hours north of Toronto in Ontario, Canada. I compose sometimes for young children. I've done a lot of composing for young children and in the method Music for Young Children. But now I'm composing, since we live in Muskoka, I've been doing a number of compositions about Muskoka. I've also been composing for the Muskoka Men of Song, which is a 35 voice male choir. So my composing has not totally shifted, but it's grown.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's fun to do different things, right? Like we've composed this.
Oh, it is. Yeah, and I get inspired when I'm listening to the men singing, and I'm thinking, oh, wouldn't it be nice to have a song about whatever, and wouldn't it be nice to feature the tenor ones or feature the baritones? And so then I get inspired to do some composing for them, and I still do some teaching, and so I'm working with my students, not many students, but I'm working with my students now in composing, and it's just wonderful to see, oh, I really have to do that. I play their little composition, and of course everything's on Zoom now. Yeah. And so when I play it, my student will say, oh, no, that's not what I wanted. And I'll say, but that's what you wrote.
Right.
So, and I always remember what David Duke, the Canadian composer from Vancouver, said, when you're composing, it's like writing a postcard. Mm-hmm. And when you send that postcard to your friend, if I send it to you in Winnipeg, Glory, then that's exactly the message that I'm sending you. And you read the message that I've sent. You don't make up the message. I sent you a message, and I always remember that when I'm teaching composing.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Francis. Mr. Christopher.
Here we go. Hello, Christopher Norton, based in Stratford, Ontario in Canada, formerly in London and other parts of Britain for 40 years, before that New Zealand. And I largely write things which are based on existing series, because I've ended up with two huge series. One of them, Microjazz, has probably 50 books.
Wow.
And Connections is getting in that direction as well. So I'm sort of joining the dots. But one interesting thing that's happened to me during the lockdown is that I discovered a great raft of piano pieces, all at late intermediate stage, which I'd forgotten I'd written. And so they're being put up by Boozy and Hawkes' Microjazz Collections 4 and 5.
Wow.
So I've been working on that, and that also involves backing tracks. So I'm using musicians from all over the world to construct tracks. So that's a very nice thing to do as well, because once you get the track back, you amend the piano part to the track. In other words, I'm doing it and then sending it to them, and then amending once I get it back from them. And the other big thing we're doing is musicals. My wife and I have written 30 stage musicals.
Wow.
And they're all being put out through Amazon via Boozy and Hawks. So we're working on 24 of them at the moment, getting them ready in InDesign. So yeah, I'm very much a series composer. I do some commission things as well, but basically I'm always chipping away at the superstructure because, as you all know, if you get an established series name, it's quite handy. Ultimate Music Theory is another series, for instance. I just thought I'd mention that.
Thanks, Christopher. And isn't it funny, you just said, and here I was, because of lockdown, all of a sudden you're discovering, oh, wait a minute, I have this whole bank of extra. I mean, I wonder if you can even count how many compositions you've written. Do you know? I mean, I'm sure it's thousands.
Thousands, yeah.
Yeah, thousands.
But it's quite interesting when you come across it, it's got your name on it. So I think I must have written it.
Right.
But I'd forgotten about them completely. But some of them are better than others, and these I thought were particularly good. I think they were probably written for the top end of American popular piano, which is another series I've written.
Yeah.
But we didn't go beyond grade 8 or level 8. Yeah. But these were like 9 and 10. So I think I did them speculatively back in 2005. Anyway, so it's fun, and I love doing editing and sort of mucking about with pieces as well. So the more thorny they are, the better.
Yes. Well, congratulations on all your success. It's really interesting when you talk about Francis teaching these little young children about their composition, and this is what you wrote. And then you see someone such as yourself who has written thousands of pieces, and it's an inspiration to say, just get started, because you never know, where it's going to take you. So thank you so much for being here, Christopher. I appreciate it. So Mr. Rami.
Yes. Brahmi Barnev. I'm from Israel, and I spend a lot of time in America. And I write music for the piano, for other instruments, for voice. Actually, when I started composing, which was late in life, after I first devoted myself to a concert career as a pianist, I started writing popular songs in Israel, folk songs, popular songs, and entered all kind of festivals. And my songs were all over the place, radio and performances. And only a few years later, I started also writing concert music, first for the piano, naturally, which I could right away perform. I had a house pianist and myself. And then I wrote for other instruments because I had house players too. My children, my grandchildren, all kinds of solo instruments, one clef instruments. And but the thing about the songs that I first wrote popular songs, and then I wrote concert music, and then when I was commissioned to write my song cycle devoted to the Holocaust, I combined my love for writing songs and concert music, and that was the perfect combination for me to deal with. Okay, I think I've said most. I mean, my piano music is basically American music, which is ragtime, and Israeli music that follows the what's called the Mediterranean style composers that were my teachers.
Yes.
That's it.
Thank you so much, Rami. It's interesting when we think about all the different styles and flavors of music that we bring to composition. It's so interesting. Miss Julianne. Oh, you'll have to unmute yourself. Thank you.
There we go. How's that?
Perfect.
Yes, I am from Manitoba, Canada, and I'm lucky enough to live in very close proximity to Glory. And I am both a composer and a piano teacher. And basically, my full name is Julianne Workington, and I got more serious about composing, I would say, when my kids were probably in the teen years, because I just wanted something else to express my musicality with. And I also found it very therapeutic. I found music very healing and composing very healing. And that's one of the reasons I began. So I compose both for piano, and I've started doing some vocal pieces as well, and have in the past for my church and for community functions and that kind of thing. But I'm really grateful for my start with Canadian National Conservatory of Music and in Glory supplemental books. And as well, I had two new books out last year with Deborah Wallace Music called Franny and Friends. And Franny is my beautiful Sheltie, and also Peculiar Pets. And the reason I wrote these books is because my students just get so excited about composing about their own pets. And they just love these books, and they were the ones that I tried these out on. And I also love composing because I think we're never more like God than when we love and when we create. And there's just something really magical and spiritual about composing. Sometimes I look back on pieces I've written and I think, I don't even know how I did that or where that came from, because it feels like just this idea that was floating by and I happened to grab it. And sometimes it comes from something really deep within, feelings I'm expressing, whether that's positive or negative. But I really like music to be therapy for my students as well. And it's been, a really tough journey, but also a really exciting one at times.
Yes, and I agree. I think sometimes when you write, sometimes it just comes through you and you don't realize, this is where it came from. And I was just the facilitator that played it out and wrote it down and notated it to share with the world. So thank you. Julianne is like my sister from another mother.
Exactly. Totally.
Neighbors that don't get to see each other until soon when we can get out of here.
For sure.
So Adrian, please introduce yourself and a little bit about you.
Hi, thanks for having me today, Glory. My name's Adrian Mckinney. I'm in Lexington, Kentucky. And when I first started composing, I was in college, and it was for myself. It was improvisatory, and then I would write things down just for myself. But later, and more recently, I've been writing for students, piano students from the elementary to the upper intermediate levels. And sometimes it's intentionally to work out a certain technique, and sometimes it's just because this music came to me and I wanted to put it down on paper for my students. So I have some publications on Sheet Music Plus and on the SuperScore app and my own publication site. And although it's mostly solo piano, I'm branching out and I have a couple ensemble projects right now. So I'm excited about that.
Nice. Thank you so much, Adrian. And Miss Pam. Hi, Pam.
Hi there, I'm Pam Turner, and I live in North Georgia in the southeastern U.S. And I'm a teacher. I'm also a church pianist, and I've been composing for about 7 years, I think. Actually, my first arrangement, I guess, came to me many years ago, and it just landed in my head. It was like early 80s, 80, 81, somewhere in there. And I heard this hymn, a few measures at a time, just come out of nowhere. And it was pretty. So I took some manuscript paper and a pencil and wrote it down. And then I played it for church and they loved it. And I put it away and didn't do anything else with it for years to come, because that was, I don't know what to do with it. That was before internet and networking and all that kind of thing. I was in a small town, but anyway, most of my composing is sacred. That's my thing. I've been involved in church music forever, and I play currently for my church, which is a small one, but I play for the congregation and now for the praise team. I also teach. I write a lot of hymn arrangements. So a good portion, probably the majority of my music is played for church services. I also write some original compositions. Those are, I have one entire book called Scripture Meditations, and they're just my own musical interpretations of specific scriptures. We use those for, well, I use them for prelude a lot. Background playing for readings or whatever. You know, they're handy to have. It's intermediate level. Most of us could sight read.
Right.
Yeah, and I also have a series called the Worship Series, which is from late beginner to early intermediate, and I have several pieces within those books that are in the current NFMC bulletin federation. So that was quite an honor to do that. But I'm kind of like what someone else said. I feel like just a vessel at times, especially with the original pieces, because I want to convey a message. For example, my son tragically passed away in 2017, and after, you know, I kind of came down to earth a little bit. It was an awful experience. Of course, I wanted to write a song in his memory, and it had to be something beautiful and meaningful and all of that. And then several months went by and I still just didn't have anything. So I'm like, okay, I need that music now. And so I sat down at the piano and just decided this is the day we're going to get started, and started doodling. And it's my favorite piece that I've ever done. And people play it for memorials and different things. One piano teacher messaged me and said that she played it for her granddaughter to go to sleep. She had woken up, I think she may have had a nightmare or something. Anyway, she couldn't go back to sleep, just a young child, maybe 5. And so she said, well, I have some new music. Let me play it for you and see if that helps you go back to sleep. And she played it, and the little girl said, Grandmother, will you play that for me again? It's so beautiful. So, you know, not to feed my own ego, but to validate that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, because it's a life calling for me. I use that same song. Well, let's see, about 4 years ago, I think we had a total eclipse, and I was worried about my dog. I didn't want him to go outside and look at the sun. So as long as I play, he will lay in his bed under the piano and sleep. So I pulled that song out and just played, and he slept, and I played, and I could see it getting dark. I had my blinds closed but open enough that I could see light and dark outside, and it got really, really dark, and I just kept playing. And then when the light completely came back, I stopped. But it's just one of those pieces that is calming and comforting and that kind of thing. So everything I write is has a message. I also have a book of expressive pieces for late beginners, because I can't stand it when students just plunk out the notes and there's no expression, there's no, you know, anything with it. It's just dry. Yeah. Just dry notes. So I wrote that book specifically to help students with learning to play expressively.
Thank you so much, Pam. You know what's so interesting is we, in this Global Music Composers Summit, is that, and I hope everyone takes advantage of getting registered for this amazing summit, because you're going to really get into the minds of composers. What is their why? What's their passion behind? Whether you're writing to give it as a gift, whether you're writing to educate young children, whether you're writing to move, you know, musicians through different levels, whether you're writing because you're a concert pianist and you're writing for your own performance, like it's just such an amazing group, or whether you're just moved spiritually and you just want to write, you know, as Pam does for her church. Like, I just find this fascinating, and I just really highly recommend that everyone get registered, because it's a wealth of information. So I'm going to throw it over to Mr. Dan, the man. Hi, Dan.
Hello. So Dan Tremblay from the National Capital, Ottawa. So I guess I've been writing music. I guess I probably started when I was about 14 or 15. And incredibly, it's mostly inspired by film scores in particular. So the music I do is multimedia stuff that oftentimes I don't even know where it ends up, and it probably ends up turned way down low that you probably wouldn't even be able to tell that my music's in there, but that's okay. Every now and again, I find out where a song has been placed, and it's always a good feeling to find where it's been.
Yeah.
And just kind of the common theme, what everyone's been saying about, whether you're religious or not, but feeling some kind of higher calling through music. I absolutely 100% believe in that, and I believe music has that spiritual kind of connection and quality to it. So that's what I try to convey when I'm doing music as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Dan. So you mean when I'm on hold, that's your music? Like, they play.
Yeah, it's some kind of terrible. Hopefully not on hold music, but yeah, quite often, when it gets licensed, other people, I'm sure other composers here have had their music licensed, and it just kind of ends up somewhere you don't really know where. So you hope it's in a good place.
It's in a good place, yes. Yeah. Thank you, Dan. Miss Elizabeth.
Hi there, Gloria, and thank you so much for having me. I compose music for film and for stage stuff. I started off as a pianist and, playing and also teaching, and have begun to compose over the years for film and media. And one of the projects I think that was pretty interesting early on was composing for Native American curanderas, healers. And this music has been used to train other curanderas in their La Tranca Institute of Healing, which, it was a documentary series about curanderas. And so that was, just a really odd departure from all the classical stuff I'd ever done. Right. I think that's one of the most interesting things about composition, as my cat climbs in front of me, is that, you're often asked to create things that are a little bit out of your comfort zone. Right. And just, doing that, you get to research about so many different things about life and put those into your music. So currently I'm the New Mexico commissioned composer. I've created the New Mexico Composers Showcase, and I've played at the World Composers Concert in Vienna for the past several years with my ensemble, the Delphi Project, doing some electroacoustic mingled with piano, mingled with just violin. So I'm really enjoying that kind of new unification of sound for me. But those are some of the things that I've done.
Yeah, that sounds so exciting. This was Miss Elizabeth Garland. She just didn't mention her last name.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I just want to make sure that everyone that's watching can also reach out to all of the global music composers that are in the summit. And if you want to learn more about them, you can reach them on our Facebook page, but just make sure to reach out and listen to the music, play the music, and be inspired by what they're sharing inside the summit for you to maybe start your journey and also to be teaching composition. Sometimes we feel like I don't know anything, and so I'm not going to be teaching, but just take the first step. Let's go over to Miss Joanne. Hi, Joanne.
Good day. My name's Joanne Barker. I live in southwestern Ontario. I'm a couple hours from Francis. I'm about 45 minutes from Christopher, halfway between Detroit and Toronto, for those of you who know the geography up here. I'm a purposeful composer, I call myself. I compose for my students. I had a studio of 65 this year, and I composed all the material that I had for them, or arranged some classics for them. I'm all about building a foundation, solid building blocks, and moving up. And I also like doing composing for people as gifts and for weddings and things like that. Faking it's always been one of my talents. I just didn't realize early on that was actually composing. Sitting playing at a funeral or a wedding and filling in time, or at church, right? Yeah. That's composing. We just have to learn how to get that onto the paper. So that's my story.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Thanks, Joanne. I like that. It's just making it up as you go. I have a little story I'll share with all of you, and then I'm coming over to Yoshi. I was doing a recital with one of my students, and he knew the 1-4-5 chords, and he had really practiced his piece, and he was about 8 years old, I guess, and so he was really ready and very excited, and everyone was anticipating with joy that this young man was going to be performing at the recital. And so I introduced him in his piece, and he sat down very proudly and kind of looked at me and gave me a little wink, and he sat down with his one chord, and then proceeded to play for, about a minute, and which was not his piece. He completely forgot everything, but all he knew was there was 1, there was 4, there was 5, and he just made it up, totally improvised. And he got up and he looked at me and he took his bow and he ended on the 1 and he went, I don't know. And he walked away. So talk about improvising on the spot. And we laugh about it now. And I think he's gone on to do some pretty great composing. So that's what you do. If you don't know what to do, you just make stuff up, and that's called composing. So Yoshi, let's hear about you.
Hello, everyone. Glory, thank you for having me. So my name is Yoshi Nakayama. And then I'm from Tokyo, Japan, living in Los Angeles. Well, I compose, but I arrange more than I compose. But yeah, I write for my piano students, or I write for a cappella ensemble or choir. And I also collaborate with songwriters when they want additional strings or additional vocal harmony or horn section. And then, I also have many of my works published on Sheet Music Plus. Mm-hmm. And I started writing music after 30 years old. I used to perform a lot, and then that didn't, at a certain point, I'm like, I also love to write music because there are a lot of performers, but writing is more next level. Mm-hmm. So I decided to go to Berklee College of Music to learn writing and production. So.
Nice. Well, keep going. And I'm glad you kind of said, I didn't start composing till I was 30, because sometimes we think it's just for little kids. If you don't start when you're little, you can't do it. So I think you're never too old to start composing. And even if you decided to, as an adult, say, I've been teaching, for over 20 years, I've never done composing. Well, now's the time to start. It's why we've created this summit for you, to just give you all these ideas. And, it doesn't matter how old you are, you can start composing. And, even as Pam said, I was just kind of noodling around, and then you might just get that download and go, wow, I can't believe I just wrote that. So great job. Hello, Miss Dominique. Let's hear your fabulous story.
Hi, thank you very much. I'm Dominique Levesque. I'm from England, but I'm currently living in Spain at the moment, which is lovely. And my composing journey started probably when I was a child. My mum took me with her to her art college, where she was still a student when I was very young, and there was a piano in the common room, and one of her lovely friends used to look after me when she was in her lessons and just play blues piano. He would sit me on his knee and just play piano, and I was just completely in love that then and there, that minute, and I knew that was something that I wanted to do forever. So when my mum left the art college, she bought the piano for like 25p back in the old days. Yeah. And that became my world. I'd put all my dolls and teddies over the piano, and that was my doll's house. It was a piano, and I'd sit on a chair with about 20 cushions so I could reach the keys. And I would just play. And I used to play fairies and monsters. So the top, above middle C was fairies, and below middle C was monsters. Yes. And that was the game I would play. And within that game, I would learn to compose and come back to little melodies or stories. And from that, the love of it grew. And much like your other colleagues have said, it's a calling. Like Pam said, it is a calling. Mm-hmm. And when you're called, you can't not come. It's the path you have to follow. So really, composing hasn't been a problem. Earning a living and bringing up a family, that's a different matter altogether.
Yes.
But I think one of the things you do learn as a composer or a musician, and in my case, a songwriter really probably, is to be very versatile and to be open to the work that comes. As challenging as that may be, it's always challenging for the right reasons, isn't it?
Yes.
So over the years, I think we've all done crazy things. I remember being on a live television show once with a man who hypnotized a chicken. You know, it was a gig.
And I hope you got paid for that one.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, and the same money as he did. Him and his chicken took home the same money we did. It was happy days.
Just too funny. Oh my gosh. We should have got a chicken on this show. Maybe we would have like the
I can show you how to hypnotize it.
You know, it's so funny that you said that, because my husband's an entertainer and he's, written a lot of songs as well. He's a songwriter and composer. And he always says, what you don't want to follow is like kids or an animal act, because they always seem to steal the show. And now you've got to follow them. So here you are playing with the hypnotize the chicken thing. Oh, that's hilarious. But what resonated so much with me, Dominique, that's truly funny, is that just when you talk about it's a gig, like I think sometimes people don't realize that like you spend hours and hours and hours as a composer because it's your calling, it's your passion, you develop as you grow. And yet, are you really ever paid for all those massive hours? Because when you said it's a gig, so you're paid for the gig, whatever that amount might be, but you're never paid for the hours of practicing and the composition time. You get paid for a download of sheet music, which no one even realizes how much work goes into that. So, sometimes I think we should all be paid as if we're, lawyers and doctors, because we've studied longer than they have for their craft.
Amen.
Yes, there we go. Yes, but thanks for that story, Dominique. That's a great one. Mr. William, we'll wrap it up with you.
All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Glory. So my name is William Montgomery. Currently based out of Houston, Texas. I just 2 years ago finished my PhD in music composition and music theory. I just actually got back from a premiere of a piece in New Orleans this last weekend. So it was kind of a big high to ride. I started composing around 10 or so, only because I was interested in how music worked and like how the pieces work together, especially after I heard The Rite of Spring. After I heard that piece, I was like, I had to figure out how things worked, how did he create these combinations? So that just kind of was the spiral into this rabbit hole that I fell. So yeah, I've been composing now for, I don't want to say too long, but 20 years or so. And my music currently is a mixture of classical and hip hop inspired mechanisms, especially text settings. So,
but have you ever backed up a chicken?
Not yet. Not yet. I have had a few people wanted some weird combinations in the percussion, but no chickens.
No chickens. Yeah. Okay, Dominique, she holds the record on the chicken. Well, yeah. It's just I love the stories. I'm a storyteller, and I guess a little bit about my composing. I started composing probably as a little kid as well, but it was more noodling, never realizing that it was actually composition. So I would do improvising, and because my dad kind of made me, he'd just say, play along with the family kind of thing. So I came from a musical family, and I guess when I started notating my music was when I became an author of the Ultimate Music Theory series, and we have over 50 books that we've written. And so I was composing primarily for my students to understand theory concepts, so they were very specific as an analysis page that they could then understand the concept of music theory, and here it's applicable to this particular piece. So that's kind of my contribution as a composer, and I really, really enjoy doing that. And sometimes I will write a piece because I need a certain concept of a minor key or something. So I guess for my music, it's purposeful. And when we talk about, download and all that, just a side story, my husband, as I was writing the series, which sometimes I would write all night, as I'm sure many of you have, you just keep writing all night and the sun comes up and you're still writing. So you kind of get your second wind. And writing 50 books in a very short time is a lot of work, as you all know. And so I was writing a piece and my husband was always in charge of dinner, but ultimately he doesn't cook. So it was more ordering dinner. And he ordered pizza like pretty much every day. And I was kind of sick of it. But I finished writing this piece and I was just about ready to, think of what am I going to name this piece? And my husband said, "Oh, pizza's here." I went, "Ugh. No more pizza." And it's actually in the book named No More Pizza. Because I was just done with all that. But so we don't know what brings the inspiration. What does the title mean? Often when we're starting a new piece with our students, we look at the title, and I for one always wonder, when I look at something written by Rami or Christopher Norton or Francis or Julianne or whoever, what were you thinking about when you wrote that piece, and why did you name it that? Because there's no little notes. By the way, I just jumped out of bed, and there's no little notes about it, but it always causes me curiosity. I wonder what they're writing about. So I want to say thank you for joining me today. We're just going to wrap it up with, I'd love you to just to fill in the blank just with a word or two on this question. So we're just talking about the summit, of course. And so I would love for you just to share just one thing. What was your biggest takeaway about being part of the Global Music Composers Summit? So can you just fill in the blank? My greatest takeaway from the summit was, and fill in the blank, and then we'll wrap things up. So Caroline, what was your greatest takeaway?
Ooh, do I have to just fill in the blank?
Fill in the blank, girlfriend. There you go.
Put your hand up if I talk too long. So I found my peeps. I feel like I belong. I have found people that feel and know the joy of music and the power of music in other people's lives. And yes. I haven't had this for a very long time. So I found my peeps, and you're my new family, and I'm so grateful.
Yay. Oh, I like that one. That's a good takeaway, Caroline. Francis, what's your fill in the blank takeaway?
My takeaway is I'm really happy to meet other composers, and there's such a variety. Yeah. And that's really enlightening to me. And I like to hear the ideas when they talk about how did they notate it, how did they record it. I like to hear those ideas. And I like to hear the ideas of why they're composing and what's happening to their compositions. And so I'm just really enjoying meeting other composers.
Yeah, thank you, Francis. Christopher, what about you?
I think my biggest takeaway is how surprisingly interesting and attractive all the other composers are.
Well, didn't you know that music makes you smarter, but composing music makes you better looking? So there you go. Here we are.
That's true. Yeah.
That's a fact. My mother told me that, and it is yet to be proven as scientific, but I believe my mama. So Mr. Rami, what is your greatest takeaway?
Well, it's a pleasure to meet everybody, to see to hear about all the styles, and really a pleasure. I just want to say one thing, like what Pam said about hearing some music in her head, that reminded me of Chopin, who said, he didn't say, I composed this music or this melody. He says, I found this melody. Like, the melody was there, and all he had to do is just find it. Yeah. And then Dominique reminded me of Poulenc's Sonata for Four Hands, where he put his little student on his lap, and the student plays in the middle part, and Poulenc played the outer part of the Four Hands. And there's an idea for other composers to write more like this for little children.
Wow. And you want to make sure they learn that before they get too big if they have to sit on your lap.
Right.
I love that idea. That sounds like fun. Julianne.
Well, aside from just feeling really blessed to connect with other people that seem to understand, this process, I would have to say that just hearing everybody say in different ways what a high calling this is so wonderful. And just an example of that recently for me is I just really My church has been the forest recently, just because of the way our world is. And when I've spent time in the forest, I've often felt like I get a download that comes with words, and how wonderful that feels to just look at music as this high calling, and just not to put yourself in a box, but to realize those inspirations are something to be taken really spiritually, even if you're noodling, right?
Yeah, and always record it, because you never know when your noodling will be a masterpiece.
Definitely.
Thank you. Adrian, what was your greatest takeaway from the summit?
This is a tough one, but I think my greatest takeaway is probably just hearing how the creative process works for everyone, because it varies. There's a lot of similarity, but it varies, and there are a lot of really great ideas for teaching students to compose. So I'm really enjoying hearing all that.
Yeah, thanks, Adrian. Pam, what's your one takeaway?
Well, first of all, I'm so very honored to be included in this group. So you guys are great. I wish I could hear more about everybody. And the takeaway, I think, is just absorbing the creative energy from you guys. I mean, it's just so inspiring, I guess. Makes me want to go write something. Yeah. But I just want to soak it up, all your comments and your ideas and your stories and how you do things. So thanks.
Well, thank you, Pam. Dan, what's your greatest takeaway from the summit?
Yeah, so just, I guess, similar theme to what everyone's saying, but I find inspiration in others, in other composers, and it's really interesting to hear what people's backgrounds are, and where they came from, and composing different works in different countries and different styles. It's very inspiring to me, and Christopher Norton, all my students are playing your songs all the time, and the amount of stuff that's been put in print is just like astounding. So to me, that's very, very inspiring to know that, okay, I got my work cut out for me. That's what I aspire towards, and I'm inspired by everyone here, and I love hearing about other people's stories and their hearing a little bit about their musical journeys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, Dan. Thank you, Elizabeth.
I think, like everyone here, I'll just echo the sentiment of being so grateful to be connected with this community of creative people, and it's been totally inspiring to hear the different techniques and stories behind your work, and to get to sort of meet and feel connected even during this pandemic, which makes it even more a little bit special. I think it's just been really an honor. Mm-hmm. So thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I'm kind of getting tears in my eyes, because it has been so inspiring for me as well. It makes me want to take the weekend to just say, maybe I should go noodle around and just see what happens. I'm kind of looking forward to that. Joanne, what's your biggest takeaway?
We know the masters of the past and who they are, but look around this room and look at these faces on this screen and the other composers in this summit. I think the future of music is looking really good.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. Thank you, Joanne. That's a good takeaway. Yoshi, what's your biggest takeaway?
Yeah, like everyone said, it's been very inspiring and refreshing to hear all those different stories behind the composing journey. And I believe most of us are educators too, so it's good that we are passing our legacy to the younger generation, younger or not.
Yes.
But yeah, very inspiring. For me, I feel really good to, feel productive and inspired in a Saturday morning. So thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Yoshi. Dominique, what's your biggest takeaway?
Well, I think it's clear that you're onto something here, Glory, with connecting all these composers from different parts of the world together, because there is a feeling of unity, isn't there? Mm-hmm. I think we all feel it. It's a very lonesome job being a composer. Mm-hmm. And so certainly to be able to connect like this at the click of a button, and to feel like you've met your peeps and your family. And I certainly would love to keep in touch with everybody. And I've been in touch with a couple of wonderful composers already from here. And I'm looking forward to what that may bring. Yes. I think it's important to keep this connection going.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you.
And
I'll never forget your chicken story. Now it's stuck in my brain. But that's really what does inspire all of us, right? William, what is your final thought?
Oh, to be the last one, that's always the worst. I just think it's amazing, the diversity and of everything, from who's writing and what they're writing, and then how we have people who have doctorates, PhDs, all the way down to those who are just kind of doing it because of the love and the passion that they have for it and following that calling. Yeah. And it's amazing. Too many times we kind of put this thing up on a pedestal, but it's great to reiterate that this is something that anyone can do. If they have that calling, if they have that passion, that they should follow it, and just, turn a blind eye and just follow your dream. So yeah. Thank you, Glory.
Thank you, William. That's a beautiful note to end on. I just want to say thank you to all of the global music composers, speakers. Many of you are here. Some of them weren't able to make it because, of course, of time zone differences and being in Australia and so on, and the place that we are at. Again, I'm your host, Glory St. Germain. I'm actually from Canada land, and I am really, really excited to be presenting this summit. It's very dear to my heart, and I hope that you take advantage of all the amazing composers that are in the summit and take time to watch these really powerful sessions, because you will be inspired. I guarantee you that. And do reach out and connect with them, because I am sure there are just multiple words of wisdom, and it is nice to connect, as you've all said. So thank you for being here. Mwah. I'll see everyone inside the summit, and have an amazing day, and go do some noodling. Thank you. Bye now.
Thank you.
Thank you.